Want to help the channel? Go to shopclownfish.com where you can check out official Clownfish TV merchandise in our brand new shop. It helps us out. Also, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/clownfishtv for more art and gaming live streams that we don't do on YouTube. We want to see you over there as well. Now let's get into the video. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I'm here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators. And there's a study that came out a couple of weeks ago. Now, this article is coming from The Ladders, which is a 100K plus job site, which I actually subscribed to years ago as a marketing manager. Got laid off looking for a job, still get their emails. They do send out some pretty good stuff. I got this in my inbox this morning. And this is really interesting because they basically said that if you are a virtue signaler, this is a scientific academic study. If you virtue signal often, chances are very good you're a narcissist, a psychopath, or a manipulator.
Color me shocked.
I know, right?
And so data ends in Y.
And
water is wet.
So this was, kind of an interesting read, and I'd heard, theories before, but this actually is coming from a college, a university that did the study and said that, yeah, basically virtue signalers are looking for clout. They're trying to build their online clout. They get off on attention, even if it's negative attention, even if it's controversial attention. And we're seeing a lot of this because there are a lot of virtue signalers working in entertainment. And anyone who's come up against these people would know that 95% of them are not actually concerned about actual social justice. They're interested in likes and retweets and fist bumps and high fives from their peers.
Really? Is that what it says?
Yeah, pretty much, that you're trying to build your following. So it's a very short article, but very interesting. We'll talk about some other instances, I guess, of virtue signaling backfiring in the business setting. It works on social media, but it doesn't really work in the business setting. If you've seen examples of virtue signaling, chances are that person could be a narcissist, a psychopath, or a manipulator.
Or all the above.
Or all the above. Now, this site deals primarily with executives and C-level jobs. So they're sending this out to all these people who would be hiring. People. Yeah, so let that sink in. So they would be hiring marketing managers, C-level executives, higher level positions. This isn't the typical. This isn't Indeed. They don't have every kind of job in here. These are executive jobs, and they're telling people, don't hire virtue signalers because they're narcissists and psychopaths.
Right. So then they're going to be out there, the ones, they hire these people, and then they're the ones that are going to hire other people for jobs. And they're going to be like, oh, don't hire people with virtue signalers.
Yes.
So this is why your social media matters. If you're out there constantly, doing this and cancel this, cancel that, participating in all this stuff, it might hurt you later for getting a job. And before you start whining and saying, well, that's discrimination, it's no more discrimination than people out there yelling that you shouldn't hire somebody based on race, gender, sexual orientation. It's the exact same thing. And I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but hating on people because they're white or male also is racism and sexism.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a real life example of virtue signaling backfiring and getting an executive fired, and in a couple of minutes here. In recent weeks, you've probably seen signs of virtue signaling online.
Probably.
God. Okay, so I guess the Ladders isn't doing too hot these days either. Often seen on social media, virtue signaling is when someone shares an opinion, usually social or political, in order to gain praise and sympathy. Think of it as a follower on social media who posts something topical just because others are posting it, or that phony influencer who somehow, out of nowhere, becomes a social justice warrior overnight. Oh boy. So this is being sent out to all the C-level people.
It's toxic and cheap. Wow.
It's toxic and cheap.
People running the companies are now saying it's toxic and cheap.
It's toxic.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yep. It's toxic and cheap. And if you can read through the lines, you're seeing examples of virtue signaling. Now, typo aside, this does go out to C-level HR people, executives, because they do hire from the Ladders. A study by researchers from the University of British Columbia sought to figure out the consequences and predictors of emitting signals of victimhood and virtue. Ouch. The study, published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology.
Which I know about these journals because when I used to work at the library at IUP, I worked in the back stacks, and people would have me go out and get past issues of books, and I pulled this book before. I pulled this magazine for people before.
It ran through a series of tests on virtue signaling. Following the tests are done in a series of studies, the authors said they showed how individuals with the dark triad traits, Machiavellianism, narcissism, and psychopathy, were more frequently showing signs of virtue signaling. So, again, this is all about giving a false appearance of being a good person to trap people, have them lower their guard, which we've talked about this before. This is even, if you want to get into it, this is even biblical. This is biblical. Jesus was like, watch out for the people who pray in public. Watch out for the people who put on the displays of being good people. Chances are they're not. And they're not. Our first 3 studies demonstrate how a perceived victim signal can lead others to transfer resources to a victim. But that motivation to do so is amplified when the victim signal is paired with a virtue signal. The authors wrote about their findings. So basically, I'm the victim and I'm a good person. I didn't deserve it. Give me more clout. Give me more jobs, give me more money. I'm a good person. I'm the victim.
Well, no, you usually see it with, well, I'm oppressed, so I should be hired over you. And that's what we're seeing mostly now. It's not even based on merit. It's based on how oppressed you are.
I'm more oppressed than you are, therefore I should get the job before you. Let me tweet about how oppressed I am. While virtue signaling does have benefits such as raising awareness towards certain causes or holding people accountable, the authors warn that it can be used as a tactic for self-advancement and goal pursuit.
So again, it comes down to intent. If your intent is legitimately because of something you care about and you're just honestly trying to think you're helping, okay? And you're doing it for no personal gain, that's one thing. If you're sitting on the internet constantly trying to find someone to learn and to show that how much better you are, or to show how you can manipulate the situation to gain something from it personally, or whether it be followers, whether it be attention, whether it be whatever, and you're just trying to do it for personal gain, those are the narcissists, psychopaths, and that kind of, because you're using a crappy situation to try to promote yourself.
Yeah, and we see this a lot of times. It's always like, here I am, I'm the victim. Oh, by the way, here's my GoFundMe. Here's my...
Here I am, I'm the victim, yeah.
I'm available to be hired, somebody.
And you see all the time with those hashtags, women and whatever. Here, you can hire me here,
Well, this is particularly true in comics, and we're going to talk about some real-world examples here, and then we'll talk about, what we're seeing going on in the comic book industry and the entertainment industry right now, which I think, this is exactly it. It's we've got manipulators who are manipulating people's emotions and their sense of doing good, and this is how these people a lot of times get into a company, infiltrate the company, and then destroy it from within, because it's not about your social causes, it's about you boosting your own career.
They're bullies. Okay.
What do they call them? Cry bullies. Here are the other findings. Our conclusion is simply that victim signals. So they're not called the virtue signal and victim signal. Victim signal is I'm oppressed. I'm being kept out of something, whatever. The virtue signal is, but I'm a good person. They're effective tools of social influence and maximally effective when deployed with signals of virtue. We also provide evidence supporting our proposition that for some people, these signals can be deployed as a duplicitous tactic to acquire personal benefits when they would otherwise not receive them. Given the ubiquity of victimhood claims circulating through public discourse by word of mouth, news reports, social media, legal cases, and the like, an explanation for the multiple motives that drive people to claim this status has both theoretical and practical relevance. Basically, the more people use this tactic and get rewarded for it, the more people are going to do it. Like, oh, all I have to do is claim that I'm a victim of something and then say that I'm a good person, and therefore I deserve more, and I get handed jobs and I get handed opportunities. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I won the lottery.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. And, we're talking about, company virtue signaling. And I think what's going on with this is we had a bunch of people using this tactic in the last 5 or 6 years, got themselves into a company, got themselves into positions, social media manager, whatever.
Sometimes they haven't even earned it. They just got them because they did stuff to other people to get themselves a position, like lied about them or whatever, got themselves a position and found out they don't even know what the hell they're doing. But they got in there because they used the whole, but I'm the victim, poor me.
Machiavellians, narcissists, and psychopaths. Machiavellians, narcissists, and psychopaths. So they're the ones who usually pull the poor me.
Should I give them the psychopath test again?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there's a story that there's a psychopath test you can take to find out if you're a psychopath. I passed it anyway. I did. This is years ago. So you have to answer this question. Some of you've already heard this if you've watched our show before. So this girl goes to a funeral for her grandma. And when she's at the funeral, she meets the man of her dreams. He is amazing. He is fantastic. She just loves him. But she doesn't even get his phone number. And she's like, I can't. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm never going to see him again. And then a week later, she kills her cousin. Why? It's something along those lines, but the same idea. And the answer is because if she killed her cousin, then they would have to have another funeral. And he most likely would know the cousin if he knew the aunt or the grandma. It's irrelevant to relatives, aunt, cousin, something. But it's basically, I kill one of my relatives so that the guy would come back to the funeral to get his phone number. So
I get what I want by any means necessary.
Right. That was a psychopath test. If you know the answer, you're not a psychopath, but you can think like one.
Well,
I just call it soap opera training.
Well, you were talking about going in the FBI at one point.
I did. I wanted to be an FBI profiler because I'm incredibly good at reading people.
Yeah, which comes in handy. Absolutely. And we run into people like this all the time, especially in the business world. We're dealing with one right now, actually. Mm-hmm. So that has all these dark triad
every single one of those.
Every single one of them. And usually they put on, they play the victim card.
They always play the victim card.
Even though they're the ones instigating, and then they constantly talk about how good they are.
If someone is always the victim, no matter what, there's a big paper, like a big trail behind them of people that supposedly hate them, and there's one common denominator is them, it's usually because of them, no matter how good they say they are.
So this is, to me, the fact that the Ladders is putting this out, and I know
it's a problem.
It's a problem in companies, and these companies are sitting here like kind of, especially now during the shutdown, they're like, oh my God, we're bleeding out money. What's wrong? And they're going to have to take a look at their staff and be like, did we hire some psychopaths to run our social media? Could it be costing us money? Chances are you could inadvertently be having a psychopath running your social media. And we know there are narcissists running social media because we've seen, for some reason, we've seen social media accounts of companies go AWOL, go ape. We've actually seen social media accounts start attacking people and whatever.
Well, what about the one that was like the Treasury Department of the state?
Very good example. Very good example. This is Pennsylvania Treasury. And I got pissed. I was so pissed. Pennsylvania started using whoever was running the social media account for the state of Pennsylvania. Like, you're supposed to pay taxes to these people. They started giving hot takes on the Pennsylvania Treasury official Twitter account. So I'm like, they've obviously got some, wet behind the ears, social justice warrior running their Twitter account because it was nonsensical, mean girl bullshit. And I'm like, we just pay you guys.
A lot of people were like, what the hell are you doing?
People were pissed. And I tweeted something out, and I'm like, whatever. I'm not going to get into it with them. But I'm like, this is a really, really bad look to have a government office behaving like some edgy, mom and pop, or Portland business. And they were doing it using the official Pennsylvania Treasury account. And I'm like, again, narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators.
I mean, and most of us would never even think that was a good idea, or never think, I'm going to go to work and use the work account to spout off my opinions. Most people would think that was a bad idea. I would say the majority of people would think that's a bad idea, because when we're talking about these people, we're literally talking about a very small percentage. Yeah. I want to make sure I make that clear. The majority of people don't fall into this category. No. We're talking about the extremists that are a tiny percentage of the people that would be on here doing this kind of thing. So it is not everyone, clearly. But,
again, when you're dealing with people that have dark triad personality traits, they go for clout. They go for the megaphone. So you hand your social media or your marketing, which is your messaging, you hand it over to somebody with these personality traits, they're going to run with it. They're going to abuse it. And they could potentially make your company look very, very bad and cost you a lot of money because they're using your business, your brand to spout off their personal opinions.
In their mind, they sometimes they think that they're oh yeah, I'm a good person. It's my duty to do this and take credit for it.
Well, here's... You know, I got my backup years ago. We've talked a little bit about you know, religious beliefs and stuff just off and on here, but I got my backup years ago. Anybody that comes to you and immediately tries to get you to lower your guard and says, I'm a good person, listen to me. Don't listen to them, because good people don't have to tell you they're good.
That's true.
They show by example. And they don't have to tell you
they're
they're
a perpetual
good.
victim, that everything always happens to them. And there's always a controversy, but they're always involved in it with different people. Like
but it's never their fault.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, red flag. Just letting you know.
Yep. So this, I got to give another hat tip to Black Sage D, who's really awesome. Go follow him on Twitter. Very, very smart guy. Sent me this article on Twitter last night talking about Red Bull. They got rid of their high-level executives who were pushing for quote-unquote diversity and inclusion. No, it goes beyond. I think most normal people are like, diversity and inclusion are good things. This was basically, we're going to hijack your marketing and your social media and turn it into an activist platform. You know, you give people that want to use your business for activism, you give them the keys to the candy store. You give them your messaging, your marketing, your social media. A lot of times they're going to run with it, and they're going to think they're completely justified in doing it, but it could cost you a lot of money.
Well, devil's advocate here too, though. It could be a matter of the fact that everybody else is doing it, and if you didn't kowtow, then everybody yelled for your cancellation. So, you know, there is two sides to this one, I think.
Well, yeah, and that's what's going on here, because it's just become this perpetuating thing where it's expected. There are actually companies that are being called out now, you know, especially when it came to Black Lives Matter. They were being called out because they weren't messaging, because it was like, if you don't do this, then clearly, if you don't spend all of your social media on this particular message, it had to be the right hashtags. You couldn't just say, hey, we like everybody equally.
Well, you're not allowed to say that.
And that's what they said, and they got taken to task, and they apparently fired one of their marketing people over.
Obviously, Black Lives Matter. Obviously, they do. But it's just like, you know, because if you're trying to be equal and say, well, you know, we believe people matter in general, you're not allowed to say that.
No, and it had to be that hashtag, that black square, that whatever, and some companies were just like, you know...
If you did it wrong, people were calling it like actors were doing it wrong.
You put 3 squares up.
How dare you?
You put 3 squares up. Your square had a border on it. That's not right. Then it turned out, I think it turned out that the black square was a troll anyway. It was a trolling by 4chan.
Probably. If any of this stuff happens, immediately 4chan's on it.
Yeah, they had women shaving their heads and all kinds of stuff. Like, now you look like a skinhead. That's not funny. Anyway, Red Bull just purged their high-level execs who push for diversity and inclusion. They just reminded their wokest employees who calls the shots in a total massacre of social justice warrior employees. Not only were the top 2 North American executives fired, but so were entire marketing teams and culture teams that were dedicated to pushing the lie of systemic racism.
Marketing teams. That would suck if you were a person on the marketing team that didn't say it, but the whole team got fired.
Yeah, so, okay, just kind of a side note here. They probably were seeing a huge dip in sales, you know, but here's the thing. Disney is going to find themselves in a situation because
Disney's definitely going to find themselves in a situation. No question. Because
they have these groups that they're putting together, but it's never going to be enough. Like, you're going to have the bean counters who are going to be like, we got to make money, so we got to do what we got to do. And then you're going to have these groups that are like, no, the message is the most important thing. And Disney's going to be like, but our shareholders, and they're going to come to blows.
But the message being the most important thing doesn't apply to the majority of people. Like, you could look at Splash Mountain, for example. The Splash Mountain, the petition to change it was significantly lower than the petition to keep it the same. Because most people understand one, it doesn't have really anything to do with Song of the South other than the characters that are cute animals. But beyond that, it's this whole idea of you have to give up everything because of cancel culture. And people are really, really turning against it. So what's going on is your market... The people in your market, if you start doing this stuff, whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter. It's just this idea that, you know, everybody's being controlled, and that people are turning against it.
Yep.
It doesn't matter if it's a legitimate cause or not. It's just like people are felt like they're being forced, you know, to accept something. They're being manipulated by narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators. And a lot of them do agree with the sentiment. They just don't want to be constantly, you know, shoved in their faces at every turn. Like being constantly told, like that bullying tactic. You have to constantly be told, well, if you're a good person, only good people will support this.
And we saw this just, you know, yesterday, day before with Dynamite. Comics. Dynamite Entertainment, they worked with, oh my God, they worked with the wrong person. But the thing is, in Dynamite's case, they knew damn well what would happen. The thing is, you have to stand your ground. They eventually, and we're going to talk about that here in a little bit too. You have to, what they want is attention and victimhood. Eventually, if they're not getting it from you, they move on
to somebody who will give it
to somebody who will give it to them. They're like vampires.
Well, I was gonna say, we saw this with in entertainment with Star Wars, She-Ra, etc. If you didn't like it, well, the immediate go-to wasn't, well, maybe you just didn't like it because you didn't like it, or maybe it wasn't that good. It was, there's something wrong with you because you're obviously, our product's perfect. Narcissism.
Yeah.
There's obviously something wrong with you, and we're going to bully you and do psychopathic tendencies where, you kill your cousin to get the guy's phone number. You're going to call them names because we're going to have to make them look bad because only good people like our show.
There's this mute button on Twitter. It's fantastic. You can just hit that and be like, yeah, you really don't
Then
matter.
they just scream at nobody and think you're reading it. It's funny.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually funny. I've muted so many people that I'm like, who the hell are you? I don't even know who you are. And I mute so many people on Twitter, and then I'd see all these hidden messages and stuff. I'm like, I was just curious to see what this person's saying, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's why I muted them. Now I know, because they're just like ranting into the void.
So they're just screaming, and we're not even reading it.
Yeah, we're not even reading it. Okay, so Red Bull. This is again coming from Revolver. This is Revolver's opinions. Red Bull has shown the way forward for all who want to prevent a total Marxist-style takeover of business and government in America. There's no appeasing these people. The only way forward is to fire them as quickly as possible and with no mercy. Err on the side of firing everyone if need be.
Well, apparently they did, which I don't necessarily agree with, because if there's people in the teams who were just doing what they were told, they shouldn't have been punished.
Yeah, so here's the thing. But I'm telling you, getting this today from the ladders, again, this site caters to executives trying to find, like, the minimum salaries on these jobs start at $80,000 to $100,000. Okay. The fact that they're telling executives to watch out for virtue signalers.
And then the Red Bull thing.
This is not a coincidence.
No, it's a real thing. Companies are starting to look, unless you're Disney or whatever. Even though what they say and what they do aren't always the same thing. I'm not talking about just Disney, but companies in general. They might put on a good show of saying things. Doesn't mean that they're actually going to, do it when push comes to shove,
Yeah, well, I mean, we had this from the LA Times. Corporations are virtue signaling like crazy. Actions speak louder than words. And again, these companies are big, especially a company like Disney. They're so big that you've got different divisions think they should deal with things in different ways. But the thing is what concerns me is you've got these groups that are being put together within the company that are, I guarantee you, they're going to be like, the message is the most important thing, your money be damned. And then Disney's going to be like, wait, we're hemorrhaging money. What happened? I thought these people knew what they're talking about. They don't care about money. They care about clout.
That's why they're not the ones who buy your stuff or go to your films or, purchase your toys or games or whatever. That's because that's not what they care about.
Yep.
It's about pushing an agenda and getting attention for it.
So this is coming from the Wall Street Journal. The maker of Red Bull energy drinks has replaced its top U.S. executives amid internal tension over the closely held company response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Red Bull, the Austrian company that makes the drink, they might be Yahtzees. The Austrian company that makes the drink said Stefan Kozak, its North American chief executive, and Amy Taylor, its North American president and chief marketing officer. The marketing people are the ones who control a lot of this stuff.
We know because you were marketing.
Have left the company. It named they always leave. They never get shit canned, but they got shit canned. They bought out their contract. It named other executives to temporarily fill the roles.
You don't know that, you're assuming.
I'm assuming. As somebody who worked in corporate for years, and I've seen people come and go, I know how it usually goes. When you have a contract, they buy you out. They're like, you know what? You're a liability. We'd rather give you a couple $100,000 to get the hell out of here than keep you around and cost us millions. Okay. Red Bull didn't give a reason for the changes, which were announced in an internal memo Monday. Taylor had been working on diversity and inclusion efforts within the company. So Wall Street Journal is trying to be like, they're just trying to get rid of diversity and inclusion. It sounds to me like they were probably costing them money. Kozak's support for several years, but was met with opposition when she began advocating for Red Bull to be more overt in its support of racial justice, according to people familiar with the matter. Some U.S. employees had recently raised concerns about what they considered the company's inaction on Black Lives Matter. Why does anybody turn to an energy drink manufacturer as their moral compass. I'm just saying, like, the first thing I think, like, my God, the country is falling apart. I really need to know what Red Bull thinks about race.
That's right.
If Red Bull and McDonald's don't tell me what to think,
I know.
if my local bank doesn't tell me what to think, I don't know what to think. If they don't say something, they're quietly conspiring against races.
But racism applies to more races than just black people.
You're not allowed to say that.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Okay, according to Business Insider, these were acts of retaliation. And rightly so. This is the opinion of Revolver. If you find yourself in this position, get an army of lawyers and find the quickest legal route to excising the cancer.
Well, to be fair, this Revolver clearly has a side agenda.
Absolutely.
Too.
But what I'm saying is, this happened. And this happened. And we're going to see these companies, when the chips are down, people are going to eat each other. And these companies are hemorrhaging money. They can't afford to have people out there running amok, running at the mouth, costing them money. You know, I mean, it's nice to do things for the community. It's nice to set, but if you're out there intentionally causing trouble and drama and divisiveness, and you're costing the company money, you gotta go.
Yeah, and stop hiring these people to run shows like Ashira.
Yeah, right. Stop hiring for Shira. Several insiders close to the situation said it was widely believed that Kozak and Taylor were fired by the Austrian leadership. See, this is the thing. This is a very American problem we're having, because Japan, they're like, we're not going to have anything to do with this.
You keep trying to tell us that other countries need to follow the rules of us. They do not. And it's not, and actually it's kind of, racist of you to say so.
It is, because I did the video yesterday on Ghost of Tsushima, and the American gaming journalists were upset that the Japanese liked this game because they said it pushed fascism and Japanese nationalism. A lot of them were white. I mean, there were some Asian American journalists, but a lot of them were white, and they're like, oh my God, the Japanese love their fascism and their nationalism. How dare they like this American produced game? This is so awful. I can't believe. And the Japanese are basically like, fuck your feelings. We don't care. And it's the same with manga and anime. They're like,
tired of you trying to tell us what we should think and feel just because you think you should be able to do that.
Right. So,
you don't have that right.
So Austria stepped in. Austrian leaders stepped in over the internal tension and diversity issues. Two employees said Taylor had been working on a project to increase black representation at Red Bull, but the leadership wasn't interested. Well, it sounds to me like it went beyond that. I mean, look, I don't think anybody has any problem with more representation at a company, but when it becomes when you basically start using people and using their identities and using their race and their gender to manipulate.
That's what's going on. They're all putting these things out because they don't want to be canceled. But beyond that, they're using people. They're using people. They're using racism, sexism, or whatever to shield themselves. They're using it to try to get buy my stuff because we believe in hiring more black people. And I'm like, they're just using you, and that's actually even worse. And somehow that's actually more racist and even worse, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, so Red Bull, okay, so here's where they're gonna get Red Bull, and this is where they're gonna call for boycotts. So they fired the executives, they cut or dissolved entertainment and culture teams in Canada, the UK, and Austria, and canceled most of the major cultural events, including the annual Red Bull Music Festival. Now, funny story, we have a funny Red Bull story. We were pulling an all-nighter at an event. We used to do a lot of festivals and stuff like that, and there was actually a Red Bull guy walking around with a backpack that ejected cold Red Bulls out of the top. Yeah. And I drank like 4 of them that night. I probably shouldn't have because I have high blood pressure to begin with.
He didn't sleep for like 3 days, and I had to drive us back to where we used to live at the time because he couldn't operate a vehicle.
It gave me wings.
It gave him,
and I did not come down for a while. So here's the thing. This guy likes Trump.
Well, I was going to say,
that's where they're going with it.
To be fair, and that's why I was saying, to be fair, this article clearly has an agenda itself. Anyway.
Yeah, so, but I'm saying there's going to be an increased movement at companies, I think, to purge people who are, not legit concerned about race relations or legit concerned about social justice, but who are narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators. I just want to end with this real quick. I watched this video by Zach the other day talking about people in comics specifically who basically are professional victims who go around looking to acquire enemies to increase their status. Because that's how, and again, this is all about being a narcissist, being a victim. What do they call it on ladders? They called it victim signaling. we have run into this ourselves. Now, again, we saw the blowback with Dynamite Entertainment and all that, and they caved. They should have just, frankly, personally, stood their ground and just been like, fuck you, mute the people, whatever.
Yeah, we're representing, so what difference does it make?
Whatever, and if you're a freelancer and you want to quit, that's your prerogative. You're a freelancer. Good luck finding work in this economy, by the way. But with, these people, like, we've run across people that are the known instigators on social media, and they try to pick fights with you. They do. We've actually had a couple of them try to pick fights with us, and what happens is we ignore them because they're looking for oxygen. And if you don't give them oxygen, you don't give them what they want. They want the victim status.
The one person in particular that was trying to do this was deliberately, trying to do that. Tweet. They weren't tweeting at us. They were doing subtweeting and stuff, deliberately trying to do stuff. Well, then they blocked you. And then they turned around and unblocked you to try to make sure you saw what they were saying to get attention.
Yes.
And we still didn't pay attention to them because they still kept trying to keep it going. And we just ignored them because we're like, who are you? You don't give a shit. Then they blocked you again and stopped.
Yeah, it was the weirdest damn thing. So yeah, this person had me blocked for a while. Comes up with this big, long tweet thread, pinned it to the top of their profile, hoping that...
I didn't even read it, honestly.
Yeah, I did. I'm like, this is a bunch of bullshit.
I didn't even read it.
I know what she's doing. Ran to the followers to try to get them to stir shit up. And when we didn't take the bait, they just took it down and then blocked us again. That's what they're looking for.
Moved on to somebody else.
They moved on to somebody else. They're professional victims. They want the clout of having enemies. They want to be the victim, again, because they're narcissists, psychopaths, and manipulators. And we had another person, too, another YouTuber one time tried to, made a bunch of videos about us trying to pick a fight. Didn't take the bait because
I was like, who?
Yeah, I know what you're doing. You're just trying to pick a fight because you want to be like, oh, CLOWNFISH TV hates me.
Well, they get rewarded for it because one particular person who worked on a show everybody knows I don't like was known because she'd go around on Twitter and try to find guys who weren't even talking to her to learn them, to gain followers and make a big, and they're like, I don't even know you. What the hell,
Yeah, this is how this whole thing kind of got started in comics and animation, where there were professional victim and virtue signalers who were on Twitter, coming over from Tumblr or whatever, who were just picking fights just to get attention, just to get followers, just to get social media clout. And then like-minded people in Hollywood gave them jobs because they're like, wow, these people must be pretty important. Look at all the Twitter followers they have.
I feel so bad for them because they're getting attacked, and how dare they attack them?
Yeah.
They're saying the right thing. They're clearly good people. We should support them. And then what happens is they get into these positions, and because they have these personality traits, narcissism, psychopathy, and manipulation. One person in particular has it. Anyway.
Right. And they get into a position of power, and then they go batshit, and then they start costing the company money. Because these people shouldn't have been, frankly, if somebody's got that dark triad, they should be given the job to begin with. But again, when you
don't know that. Like, a lot of those things you can't tell from a job interview.
No. And to be fair, if it becomes obvious, though.
The ones who have the ones who usually have these, okay, they are so good most times at pretending to be good people and how they're just misunderstood and mistreated, and it's always your fault, not theirs. Those are key factors in these people. They're so good at manipulating the situation to be that they're always the victim and you're being mean to them, and how they can, play on that to get what they want, that you often don't even see it coming until it's too late and it's already done. That's the truth.
Cry bullies. So, but I guess my thing is like, somebody who's hired people before, if it becomes obvious that they're there just to cause problems. And a lot of times what'll happen is you'll bring these people into the company under you, and then they'll try to undermine you and push you out. I've seen that happen before too. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll bring someone in like, yeah, let's give this person whatever, they're fresh out of school, they got fresh ideas, whatever. And they come in and then they immediately go to work to undermine the people that brought them in.
And they're usually narcissists. I know one in particular. Here I am. Oh my God, it's like me. Take my picture, put me on Instagram, me.
Because you don't want to be a dick, so you're like, fine, I'll bring this person in, I'll play ball, and then you find out that person was immediately going to work to push you out of the way.
Oh, Karma's a bitch.
Karma's a bitch. So is she. So
Em should get what she deserves, so it's all good.
So anyway, I just thought it was really interesting because I did see this article last night, to have the ladders blast this out to everybody. And most of the people who get the ladders are executives, former executives, C-level people.
I've noticed too a trend in evaluation testing, like for some jobs now too. Have you seen that? Like when you apply for jobs, they'll have you do like they'll have you answer questions.
Yeah.
And what it is kind of like an evaluation to see if you're a good fit. But basically, it's like trying to test you to see, you know, what tendencies you have.
Yeah.
You know, I've noticed that. So now I haven't applied for a job in a while, but it's been a couple of years. But when I started noticing that they would sometimes give you these tests.
Yeah, I think they need to. I think they need to do some kind of like psych eval. I think they need to go back and look at people's social media too and be like, look, you want to be our social media manager, but I'm looking at your social media and it's a freaking dumpster fire. You're not going to use our account to broadcast your stupid hot takes. Nobody cares.
And a lot of times they'll apply for these jobs and be like, well, I have like 10 years of social media experience. Well, talking to your mom on Facebook isn't social media experience.
Yeah, right. And I think a lot of it's just a lot of the companies are, you know, let's be honest, are run by boomers who don't quite understand how it works. So they let these people...
Those people are our age.
I know, but I'm saying, I mean, you could be a boomer and actually be younger. They don't understand how the internet works, so maybe they don't do due diligence to see exactly, you know, what they don't realize they're letting the vampire into their house. They think they're just being hospitable, but they're actually letting the vampire in.
We don't want to look like a bad guy, and if I'm mean, I'm the bad guy. But they're not going to hesitate to be mean to you.
If you don't hire them, that's the thing. Like, what do you do if you don't hire them? They will scream and yell that you're being a racist or a misogynist or a homophobe or something. If you do hire them, they'll come into your company, commandeer your platform,
then yell at your clients,
and yell at your clients and your customers and destroy your business.
And say that they're racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobes, whatever.
But if you don't hire them, they're going to try to destroy your business from the outside. I mean, you know, what do you do? And I think what's going to have to happen is people are going to have to realize that, you know, it's unavoidable. You're going to get backlash from people no matter what you do.
But the good news is, like as I said earlier, the majority of people do not fall into this category.
No.
I would say the vast majority of people are not the kind to do this. And I think most people are just getting sick and tired of the bullcrap. I don't care. That's not even based on race, gender, or sexual orientation, or anything. People are just tired of it. And I think especially if you're a person that's a minority, it would be really insulting that they're using you and you know, people like you to you know, try to gain sales. At the end of the day, that's what they're trying to do. That's actually shit. But it's just, anyway, I'm just saying most people are not going to behave this way. No. Sadly, the ones that do are really good at climbing ladders because they're really good at manipulating the situation.
Yeah, so I think companies are going to have to be more cautious. The comic book industry...
Clearly, they're saying it.
The comic book industry has been completely overrun with these people because the comic book industry has always been very kind of chill, very lax, very not professional. That's how they got in. That's how they parked it. Now, getting them out is probably going to take burning down the damn industry.
It was already on fire.
It was already on fire anyway.
Instead of trying to throw a cup of water on it, just let it go.
Just let it go and start over. All right, so we're going to wrap this one up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching Clownfish TV. Please consider supporting the channel. Go to clownfishsupport.com. That's clownfishsupport.com. And if you want to join our community, go to clownfishtalk.com. That's clownfishtalk.com. Please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. We will talk to you next time.